In 1620, while the Mayflower was in Provincetown, 18 of its men sailed in a small shallop, searching for a place to live. They came to present-day Eastham, where they were met by a group of Nauset. After a brief but violent encounter, the English left towards today's Plymouth. In 2020, we remember this first encounter. We explore its meanings for today and tomorrow.
My name is Joanna Holleck, and I'm the coordinator of the Sunset Series with Eastham 400. We have now reached the final episode of the Sunset Series, episode 99. I'd like to share some reflections on the summer, on what I have learned, and on what the future may look like. Growing up on Cape Cod, the story of the Mayflower passengers and the story of the Wampanoag were taught to me frequently. I learned about these stories in 3rd grade when I studied local history, in 4th grade when I studied state history, in 8th grade when I studied American history, in 10th grade when I studied European history, and in 11th grade when I studied U.S. history. My knowledge of these stories expanded each year, but generally stuck to the basics. The Pilgrims, the Mayflower, a difficult journey, a brutal winter, religious freedom, the first Thanksgiving. The Wampanoag, wigwams and weetus, flying arrows, connections with nature, unjust treatment by the colonists, and wampum as money. Despite building model weetus out of paper bowls and visiting Plymouth Plantation, it was not until I started working for Eastham 400 that I realized the complexities of these histories. At the beginning of the summer, I thanked the Eastham 400 Commemoration Committee for hiring me and explained how excited I was to work on the Sunset Series. I explained that I hadn't realized how much I appreciated living on Cape Cod until I moved away to college, to a landlocked state that lacked beautiful beach sunsets. Now, at the end of the summer, I express the same sentiment. I had not realized how uniquely wonderful Cape Cod is. This time, however, I refer not only to our local beaches, but also to our local community. Eastham 400 and the Sunset Series have brought these stories to life for me and taught me how to use our histories to build community. For me, the Wampanoag provide a beautiful demonstration of how the past and the present can intertwine to create our identities and shape our communities. David Whedon shared with us the traditional home that he built this summer. Nathan Mills pointed out the trouble he has practicing traditional activities, such as hunting and fishing, in a modernizing, developed world. Alyssa Harris spoke about her work at Plymouth Plantation, emphasizing the fact that it was not work, but an enjoyable way of embracing her identity and traditions. Melanie Roderick discussed teaching the Wampanoag language to preschoolers, high schoolers, and adults, reclaiming a language that died out decades ago. Each of these individuals used their unique passions and talents to strengthen their community, acknowledge their history, and share it with the world. The Sunset Series has introduced me to dozens of knowledgeable, accomplished, and engaging individuals who have shared their personal experiences and their areas of expertise with us. I hope that, like me, you have learned about the ways our community has changed over the past 400 years. Speaking about history is not easy. History is biased, it is violent, and it is complex. The first encounter is a perfect example for this. We do not know for sure where the first encounter took place, how many men were on the shallop, or how many Nauset were on the shore. We do know that the encounter was brief, that it was not peaceful, and that it was not the first. Over the past 99 days, we have learned about hardships. We learned about the religious oppression faced by the colonists, the difficult journey across the Atlantic, and the challenging first winter for the Mayflower passengers. We learned about the many struggles that Native Americans faced, including plagues, stolen land, kidnappings, slavery, and loss of power. We learned about migration, cultural tension, and racism. We learned about centuries of injustice, inequality, and oppression on local, national, and global levels. We learned about the hardships people faced 400 years ago, but we have also learned about the hardships that people in our communities still face today. Native Americans and people of color today still struggle to make their voices heard, to preserve their culture, and to be respected. We must remember that issues of oppression, cultural tension, environmental destruction, and one-sided stories are not simply a thing of the past. These heavy topics and the difficult truths of our history weigh on our hearts as we listen to stories that have been silenced for far too long. The good news is that this is not the end of the story. Ian Saxene, author of The Story of the First Encounter at Nauset, ends his book by admitting that no clear ending exists because the last encounter hasn't happened yet. We are still engaged in discussions about migration in our communities today. We are still considering the uncertainty of our changing environment. We are still listening to the stories and traditions of Native Americans and people of color in our communities. We are still remembering our personal histories, our genealogies, and our origin stories. We are again adjusting to new realities, realities of a pandemic, realizations of racial injustice, and surviving a changing environment. The same issues that populate historical texts from 400 years ago are at the forefront of our conversations today. I feel grateful to have listened to and participated in some of these conversations here on the Sunset Series. I cannot end this series without thanking the people who made it possible. To the Eastham 400 Commemoration Committee, the Town of Eastham, the Chamber of Commerce, Eastham Public Library, and Friends of the Library, thank you. Thank you especially to Jim Russo and Debbie DeJonker-Berry for your continued support throughout the summer, to John Hanlon for your outreach and expertise, and to Mike Caleri for your technical support. I'd also like to thank Devin Baker, our director, videographer, and video editor. Although Devin never appeared on screen, he has worked tirelessly on each and every one of our videos. Without Devin's dedication and talent, this series could not have happened. Tom Ryan has also played a crucial role in this series, as both vice chair of the Eastham 400 Committee and as executive producer. Tom's energy, wisdom, and commitment have contributed to this series in countless ways, both on and off the screen. Thank you to each of our presenters for volunteering so willingly to share your personal stories, your historical knowledge, and your thoughtful reflections. And finally, to you, our viewers. We are so appreciative of your support and your feedback. Thank you. This is the end of the Sunset Series, but it is not the end of Eastham 400 events. A number of programs are being planned for this fall and winter. Several events will take place in Eastham on the 400th anniversary of the first encounter, December 8th, 2020. One of them will be an interfaith sunrise service taking place at 7 a.m. on First Encounter Beach. It will include Jewish, Christian, and indigenous religious practices to commemorate and lament violence. All are welcome. You will see on our website that our videos are grouped thematically, some focusing on history and some focusing on meanings this history has today. Equally important is the explorations of what meanings these events will have in the future. What will happen to us tomorrow? Who will we encounter, and how will these encounters go? When we encounter injustice, how will we react? I hope that this summer has taught me to react with compassion, with the ability to listen across differences, and with the toolkit for building meaningful, mutually beneficial relationships. May the encounters of our past be remembered critically. May we learn from our mistakes, from our severed relationships with the world around us and with each other. May we use this knowledge to inform our future encounters so that we can form relationships, foster reconciliation, and create a peaceful and equitable tomorrow. Thank you.